Okay, so what if I told you that the calendar on your wall, the date on your phone, it's all wrong? I mean, completely wrong. And that we've been counting the years incorrectly for like 1,000 years. This is the wild story of the phantom centuries, a theory that says a massive piece of human history, well, it just never even happened.
And the core idea is, well, it's as simple as it is shocking. The theory goes that somewhere around the 10th century, a couple of very powerful guys decided to just invent almost 300 years of history. Just poof, made it up out of thin air. And they filled that fake time with made-up kings, made-up wars, even made-up saints.
So think about this. If this theory is actually true, then we're not living in the 21st century. Not even close. The year isn't whatever you think it is, it's actually 1729. And that means every single historical event you've ever learned about gets shifted by nearly 300 years.
Right, so you're probably asking, where did an idea this wild even come from? I mean, how could 300 years just go missing without anyone noticing? Well, to figure that out, we've got to jump back to 1991, to a German historian who stumbled upon something really weird, a disturbing silence in the history books.
Okay, so this is where our deep dive really begins. And we're not talking about some simple math error here. No, the theory claims this was a deliberate, massive forgery on a scale that's, well, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
You see, the guy who came up with this, Herbert Illig, he wasn't looking for a conspiracy. He was a serious historian, a systems analyst, and he was just doing his job, studying the early Middle Ages. But the deeper he dug, the weirder it got. He realized that the evidence, the archaeology, the coins, the pottery, it all just seemed to stop. Like history hit a brick wall.
So Illig pinpointed a very specific window of time, a 297-year gap, right between the years 614 and 911 AD. This is where history doesn't just get quiet, it goes completely silent. Look at this timeline. You've got the Roman Empire chugging along, and then nothing. A total void. It's almost like the world itself got amnesia for 300 years. And that's what he called it, the phantom time.
And this is where it gets really crazy. You know those huge historical figures, like Charlemagne, the father of Europe? Well, according to Illig, he and his entire dynasty, they never existed. They were completely made up. Fictional characters written into the script just to fill up those empty years and make the whole fake timeline seem believable.
Now look, a claim that big needs some serious evidence to back it up, right? And Illig didn't just point to an empty spot in the timeline. He actually built a case, laying out 3 different lines of evidence. Each one is like a clue that chips away at the official version of history. So let's follow the trail.
All right, the first clue is literally set in stone. Think about Roman architecture back in 400 AD. It was amazing, right? Super advanced. Then, our official timeline says nearly 600 years go by, the Dark Ages, and then boom, around the year 1000, this new style called Romanesque architecture pops up, and it's using the exact same techniques as the Romans. It's like architecture went to sleep in ancient Rome and woke up 600 years later without changing a thing.
So where's the in-between? Where's all the gradual change and development you'd expect over 6 centuries? Well, the phantom time hypothesis has a simple answer. There is no transition, because the time for that transition never existed. It's a straight-up jump cut in history.
Okay, but you could argue about buildings, right? So Illig turned to something that, according to the theory supporters, you just can't fake. The stars. The movement of the sun, the moon. It's all based on math. And ancient civilizations all over the world were obsessed with tracking the stuff, especially eclipses. And the method here is pretty brilliant. See, with modern astronomy, we can calculate the exact date and time of every eclipse that has ever happened with pinpoint accuracy. So, when researchers took those calculations and compared them to the ancient records, they didn't match, not even close. The old texts were describing eclipses that, based on our calendar, were impossible. But here's the kicker. When they took our calendar and just erased 297 years, everything lined up perfectly. The math suddenly made sense.
And really, this is the heart of the astronomical argument. You can forge a document, sure. You can invent a king, but you can't fake the laws of physics. You can't change the orbits of the sun and the moon. The theory basically says the universe itself is telling us our calendar is bloated with 297 extra phantom years.
Okay, clue number 3. This one takes aim at another cornerstone of dating history.
tree rings, dendrochronology. In theory, it should give us a perfect, unbroken, year-by-year record. But guess what? For this exact same period, from 600 to 900 AD, the data gets super weak and inconsistent. The theory says it's a classic case of circular reasoning. You're using a calendar you think is right to date the trees, and then you're using those trees to prove the calendar is right. See the problem?
So if all this extra time was just added, the big questions are pretty obvious. Who would do such a thing, and why? Well, the theory points a finger straight at a conspiracy at the very top, driven by a powerful mix of prophecy and, you guessed it, politics.
The theory actually names names: a young Holy Roman Emperor, Otto III, and a super smart Pope, Sylvester II. In their motive, it was all about the year 1000. That was the big one, the millennium everyone was waiting for. Ruling at that specific moment would be like getting a direct endorsement from God. Only one problem. It was actually only the year 703. They were about 300 years too early.
So, what do? According to the theory, you don't wait, you just change the date. They declared, hey everyone, it's the year 1000 now, and then got to work creating the history to fill in the gap. I mean, think about it. Almost nobody could read back then. Whoever wrote the books controlled reality. So they allegedly got all the monks and scribes to start writing new histories, forging documents, and inventing whole dynasties, heroes, and battles to plug that 297-year hole.
Look, whether you buy into this theory or think it's completely nuts, you have to admit it makes you ask some really uncomfortable questions. If the timeline we all just accept as fact could be a total fabrication, what does that say about everything else we think we know? What does it mean for us right now?
And this is where it gets really mind-bending. The moon landing, that didn't happen in 1969. It happened in 1672. World War II didn't end in 1945. It ended in 1648. Your whole sense of history, of when things happened, is just shattered. It would mean we're essentially living in a carefully constructed lie.
So the big takeaway here is that the theory claims the story of our past was once hijacked by an emperor and a pope, which naturally leads to the next question: who's writing the story today? Because history isn't just a list of facts, it's a narrative, and any good editor will tell you a narrative can always be changed.
Now, to be clear, pretty much every mainstream historian dismisses the phantom time hypotheses. They have strong counterarguments for all of this. And yet, the idea just won't go away. Maybe that's because it taps into this deeper fear we all have, that our reality is a lot more fragile than we'd like to believe. It leaves you with this one final unsettling thought. If something as basic as the year on our calendar could be a lie, what other fundamental truths are just stories we've all agreed to tell ourselves?